You've got the big story of Hannah in the present day. I mean, if 1996 was the present day, right? But then you've got all of these smaller stories of the people of the book. Hi, I'm Vivian, and today we're talking about People of the Book by Geraldine Brooks. Published in 2008, it is 396 pages and almost 14 hours on audiobook, and I loved it. So, the book is about Hannah, who is a rare book expert who is hired to analyze and conserve a copy of the Sarajevo Haggadah. And it's a religious book, kind of like a prayer book, but it is super unique because it has all of these gorgeous, intricate pictures, paintings in it. So it is super rare, super unique, and somehow it has ended up in Sarajevo, where it was rescued by a museum worker during the war in Bosnia. How it ended up in the museum in Sarajevo is part of the mystery that Hannah is unraveling as she is analyzing this old book it's falling apart and disintegrating. It's super, super old. So as she's working on the project, she notices things in the book or about the book, like there are some clasps that hold the book together and they're missing. And there's a piece of white hair stuck in the binding. There's a butterfly wing, which turns out to be from like a super rare butterfly that's only found in a certain part of the world, right? She finds like grains of salt. There's a stain in the book that could be wine or it could be blood, So she finds all of these things in the book. And she's trying to figure out and write her report, right? And figure out like, where did all of these things come from? How did they get into the book? And then how did the book get from wherever it started to Sarajevo, right? And then what's going to happen to it now, right? So it's all of this mystery of the book. So the novel goes back and forth. Each chapter goes back and forth between 1996, when Hannah is working on the Haggadah and writing her report and living her 1996 life, right? And she's got all sorts of things going on. And then the next chapter, you jump back in time to the years and to the places where the items Hannah found in the book when they got into the book. And you finally get back to its origin and find out who created the book and why they created the book and how they created it. But then you get like all the stages of the book, and you sort of help unsolve the mystery of the book. And you get involved in the lives of all of the people, right? The people who created it, the people who it got passed to, the people who hid the book, the people who prayed with the book, the people who tried to destroy the book, the people who protected the book. And so you find out about all of their lives, and you sort of go along with Hannah and solve the mystery of the book. So in one chapter, you're in 1996, and then you're in 1940 Sarajevo, or 1894 Vienna, or 1480 Sevilla, and you're like jumping back in time to all of these places that explain the butterfly wing, the missing clasps, the stain, right? You find out, where did all of these things come from? How did they get there? And all of these things have their own story with their own characters and their own set of events and things that happen in all of these places to all of these people. So it's like a whole bunch of books in one book. about a book. You've got the big story of Hannah in the present day. I mean, if 1996 was the present day, right? But then you've got all of these smaller stories of the people of the book. Pro tip, so it can be a bit confusing to follow the dates and the cities and the people. There were times when I was reading and I would be like, wait, where am I in time? Where has the Haggadah been? Who's this character? How did they end up with the book in this place? Sometimes it was as confusing. So it was super helpful to me to keep just a very simple timeline, right? Just the date, the city, the character with hands on the book in that place, and what their role in the book was, right? Like, is this where the butterfly wing comes in? Or is this how the stain gets in the book, right? And then if possible, I would write a quick note about how the person in that place and time, how they came in contact with the book, and then when they last had contact with the book. Because it was not easy for me to trace the book through time. For me, it was a bit disorienting going from 1996 Bosnia to 1940 Sarajevo, back to 1996, then to 1894 Vienna, and then back to 1990. I mean, you're skipping centuries where you're like, okay, where's the Haggadah now? I've lost it. It wasn't until I said, oh, forget it. I got to keep a timeline. I got to keep some kind of map, something, because how the heck did we get here? I don't know where we are. And the beauty of the book is figuring out, how did we get here? And so, like, my pro tip, keep a timeline, right? Because you've got to be able to keep track of the Haggadah and see how all the pieces of the puzzle fit together. Trust me, this timeline will be your best friend. So, to book club or not to book club? Book club. Definitely book club. And you know what kind of book club I think this would be perfect for? A weekend reading retreat book club. I'd hole myself up in this house with my best book friends. We'd go our separate ways to read a chapter, and then we'd all come back together and talk about that chapter and how it fits into the story and what we're wondering about with the next piece of the puzzle and what pieces of the puzzle have already like come together and who are all of these people, right? I kind of feel like this is one of those murder mystery weekends where you all try to figure out who done it, but it's not a murder. It's everyone trying to figure out how this rare book, how this rare Haggadah came to be and how it ended up in Sarajevo, right? But while you're talking about the Haggadah, what you're really having all these discussions about are the people involved, people who had their hands on the book, right? And their lives and their hopes and their dreams and their everyday, like what it was like for the Jewish community in 1609 Venice, or what it was like to be a slave to the emir's wife, or what it was like to be the emir's wife, for that matter, in like 1480. I mean, each piece of the puzzle deserves some discussing, and each person in each piece of the puzzle deserves some discussing. So chapter by chapter, this book would be perfect for a weekend reading retreat kind of book club, for sure. I would go to that. Okay, so let's talk the Fig Three. 3 things from this book that I would love to discuss with my book club. In Venice, what made the priest in Venice ultimately sign his name and protect the Haggadah? And what's the rest of his story? Like, what happens next with him and the book? Does he keep it? Does he give it back to the rabbi? Does he find the woman who gave it to the rabbi and give it back to her? I mean, we know that the Haggadah ends up with a member of the Cohen family, who was a cantor in Venice, but how? Is the priest a member of the Cohen family? What do you think? All right, Tarragona 1492. The most horrifying scene I've read in a long time is in this chapter. When Renato was being tortured by being made to swallow the linen until it had gone all the way to his stomach. And then you know what happens next. And I feel like I need to process this with other people who maybe also need to process it. Or at least sit like in shocked silence together until the horror passes. So what would you have done if you were Hannah and you knew the exhibition book was a fake and you suspected that the original book had been stolen and that Osmond and Warner were basically looking at you like you'd lost your mind, but you knew you hadn't? What would you do? And would you have given up on the book business altogether? Or would you have like moved on? I don't know. What would you have done? Okay, one more. What would you have done if you were Hannah 6 years later when the Foreign Affairs Office calls and is like, hey, can you help us out with this super secret mission that could get you seriously imprisoned if you're caught? But hey, we know you didn't lose your mind all those years ago, so help us out here. Would you have done it? Would you have done it? So what do you think? You think you want to book club this one? What do you think about my reading retreat book club idea? Look, if you decide to do it, let me know in the comments and let me know how it went. I would love to know. I think it's a great idea. I think it would be a super fun weekend reading retreat book club. If you do it, let me know. If you're thinking about The Henna Artist by Alka Joshi, Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmus, or the Books in the Hopeless series by Colleen Hoover, well, I've got videos coming up on those books, so no worries, I've got you covered. Make sure to subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell so you will be notified when I've got videos for those books available. You're in the right place. We read different. If you're reading or thinking about reading Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin, or Demon Copperhead by Barbara Kingsolver, you might want to check out these videos. Thanks for watching. See you next time.